The fluorescent lights of the courthouse flickered, casting a harsh glare over the marred linoleum floor. A faint murmur of gossip swept through the room as a bailiff ushered the crowd to settle down. Among them stood Claire, her jeans frayed at the edges, a tired smile plastered over her lips, a testament to her resilience. In her arms, a tattered stuffed bear held the remnants of a childhood dream, clutched tightly like a lifeline. Across the room, a man in an impeccably tailored suit leaned against the wall, his icy blue eyes scanning the scene with detachment. Samuel Hastings, billionaire, tech mogul, and now a headline, though he relished none of it. As the judge called for order, he shifted, his hand brushing the pocket of his jacket, where the weight of a gun pressed against his side, a reminder of his escape, his desperation hidden beneath layers of wealth. Time stalled as Claire caught his gaze, the tension between them almost electric. She could sense his turmoil, but the world around her reduced him to a mere spectacle. Unbeknownst to her, a single choice awaited on the road ahead, a moment that would alter their paths forever. Claire's day began as it always did, with the sun's muted rays filtering through the kitchen window. She brewed a pot of coffee as the scent of toasting bread filled the air, a temporary distraction from the weight of her reality. The small, cluttered space was a collage of memories and necessities, adorned with mismatched furniture and the vibrant, if worn, art her daughter had created over the years. Each piece told a story, echoing laughter and late-night whispers during sleepless stretches that accompanied motherhood, especially in the shadow of loss. At times, Claire would stand by the window when the world outside felt overwhelming, her mind drifting back to the life that had been. 5 years prior, she had been a rising star in a marketing firm, ambitious with dreams to change the world. But the bright prospects of her career dimmed with the sudden passing of her husband, leaving her to navigate the tumultuous waters of grief and parenthood alone. Sacrifice had become her creed, a daily practice of putting her daughter's needs before her own. It had been a slow erosion, the small joys she had once relished giving way to exhaustion and worry. Now, as she watched her daughter play in the adjacent room, Claire felt the familiar swell of determination within her. For every moment of doubt, she had nurtured a glimmer of hope. It was this resolve that drove her as she prepared to attend another grim court session, the latest bout in a long, unforgiving battle for custody of her daughter, where she was often pitted against a system that seemed indifferent to her struggles. Clutching the tattered bear, a remnant of her daughter's childhood, she wielded it like a shield, a small comfort in a place that felt increasingly hostile. Outside, she slipped into her old sedan, its engine grumbling as she turned the key. She often referred to the car as her faithful companion, each dent and scratch a testament to her journey. As she pulled away from the curb, Claire allowed herself to fantasize about what lay ahead: a promotion, a stable home, perhaps even a chance encounter that would lead to something better. The dreams felt distant, but just like the bear she clutched, they were a lifeline that kept her anchored, even amidst uncertainty. Across town, Samuel Hastings occupied a corner office in a high-rise that kissed the clouds. The gleaming surfaces reflected his meticulously crafted persona, an empire built from tireless hours and ceaseless ambition. He had clawed his way to the top, earning his place as a visionary in the tech industry. Yet, within the confines of his office, the accolades felt hollow, mere trinkets of success that couldn't soothe the gnawing emptiness inside him. Samuel had always been driven, molded from a young age by a father who equated love with achievement. But the accolades and the wealth hadn't bestowed the solace he yearned for, or the family that crumbled under the weight of his ambition. Every board meeting, every late night spent perfecting code, had cost him relationships, leaving him surrounded by accolades but utterly alone. The loneliness became a void he struggled to fill, echoing through his opulent lifestyle like a ghost. As he sat in that elegant office, he watched the world unfold through the panoramic windows, people moving like the clockwork cogs he was so used to manipulating. Yet today, everything felt different. The headlines had turned against him, revealing a softer side of his life, a vulnerability that left him exposed. He had grown accustomed to controlling narratives, but as the police closed in, the familiar grip of fear and desperation set in like a vice. Palms sweaty against the cool leather of his chair, Samuel absently traced the outline of the gun hidden in his jacket. It was a reminder of the choices he had made, not just to protect himself but the fears that had driven him into hiding. In a world where security had once seemed a given, now he was just a man on the run, masking his identity while craving connection, at any cost. The roads were open and endless, and as fate intertwined their paths, Claire unwittingly embarked on a journey that would not just change her life, but bring Samuel face to face with the shadows he had evaded for so long. The choice she would soon make would challenge not only her strength but the very fabric of the world they both navigated, as the reality of their hidden identities loomed just beyond the horizon. The hum of Claire's old sedan filled the air as she navigated the winding roads. The morning sun finally broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the street. She pulled onto the highway, hoping for a swift journey to the courthouse. Suddenly, her dash lit up, flickering warning signs that made her heart race. Engine trouble, she thought. Just as dread began to pool in the pit of her stomach, the car sputtered, losing power. In her rearview mirror, a sleek black sedan loomed large. It seemed to glide toward her, an eerie contrast to her dilapidated vehicle, before pulling up alongside. Her instincts flared, caution clouding her thoughts. But as the driver leaned out the window, she recognized him instantly, Samuel Hastings, the billionaire whose face had become synonymous with scandal. This wasn't just a random encounter, it was a collision of worlds that felt like fate weaving its threads together. "Pull over," he commanded, his tone clipped. The smug confidence of a man used to being in control dripped from every word. Claire weighed her options. She could ignore him, drive on. But something about his demeanor, a tension beneath the polished exterior, piqued her curiosity. "I'm in a hurry," she replied, a mix of defiance and curiosity coloring her voice. "Listen, lady, I don't have time for games," Samuel shot back, his icy blue eyes narrowing. "I need you to pull over." He leaned even further out the window, desperation radiating from his rigid posture. Claire could read the fear in his eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that didn't align with the public persona he upheld. But Claire was no stranger to adversity, her resilience had been forged through loss and necessity. She tapped her fingers against the steering wheel, gathering herself. "You need a ride, right? It's better to drive with someone, especially if you're," she hesitated, choosing her words carefully, "in a hurry." His silence hung heavily between them. She could feel his internal struggle as he weighed his options, torn between pride and necessity. Finally, she exhaled steadily, making a quick decision. "I can help you. We can get wherever you need to go." There was an unexpected resolve in her voice that shocked even her. Samuel hesitated, caught off guard by her calm authority. His world had been chaos for too long, and here was this woman, exuding a quiet strength amidst his disarray. "Why would you want to help me?" he asked, suspicion lacing his words. "I've got no time for charity." Claire turned her gaze toward the road, her thoughts drifting back to the years spent juggling motherhood and the remnants of her past, a past that, like her, was far from perfect. "Because sometimes you don't get a choice," she replied softly, her voice steady. "And helping someone feels better than just turning away." For a fleeting moment, he saw the flicker of something in her, a depth that stirred his intrigue. "What's your story?" Samuel found himself questioning, his earlier dismissal starting to erode. She was more than just a random stranger, there was an intensity about her, an understanding that whispered of battles fought and lost. Claire smiled faintly, the edges of her lips curling as she shifted the car into gear. "It's not a glamorous one. Just a single mom trying to get to court. But I've faced my share of challenges." There was a weight in her words, a subtle invitation for him to lower his guard. As they sped away, the boundaries of their lives blurred, weaving a narrative neither had anticipated. The road ahead held uncertainty, but together, they were about to embark on a journey of revelations. The tension in the air wavered between discomfort and unforeseen camaraderie as Claire and Samuel sped down the highway. The rhythmic hum of the engine droned, but silence loomed in the moments between their wary exchange. Claire stole glances at Samuel, his jaw set with determination, while he appeared to be lost in thought, strategizing his next move. It was an uncharted territory they were navigating together, two disparate lives colliding under the weight of urgency. "Do you have a plan?" Claire broke the silence, her voice steady but curious. The question had lingered like the remnants of unease in the air, and she needed to know what lay ahead. Samuel's fractured world wouldn't solely revolve around his escape. She understood enough of human nature to recognize that survival was often a two-way street. "I need to get to a safe house," Samuel responded, his voice low, each word deliberate. "If I can make it without being seen, I can regroup and find a way to clear my name." He could sense Claire's skepticism and added, "It's a long shot, but it's what I have. They don't know I'm out yet." She nodded, contemplating his words. In a world where she had learned to adapt and make do with less, the notion of safety felt precious and distant. "And what if they do spot you? What's your backup?" The questions poured out without reservation. Samuel had begun to reveal cracks in his armor, and her instinct told her to keep pushing. Jockeying for control of the situation felt necessary, and the more she learned about him, the more she recognized the man behind the headlines. "There's a way to get off the main roads," he replied, a flicker of respect sparking in her gaze. "But it's risky. You'll have to trust me." The intensity in his voice caught her off guard. It was a rawness she had not anticipated amidst the bravado. Everything about him screamed power and privilege, yet here he was, a fugitive in the hands of a stranger. "If you take a right up ahead, we'll head toward the back roads. It's less likely we'll run into anyone." Deciding to follow his lead, Claire took the turn, her heart pounding, anticipation threading through her veins. "Fine, but I need to know what you're really running from." "I can't just be a getaway driver without understanding the stakes," she stated, a blend of integrity and curiosity woven into her words. He hesitated, the weight of his choices hanging in the air like a fog. "I'll tell you if we make it out of this." "Just know I didn't choose any of this," Samuel confessed, a heaviness in his tone, revealing a flicker of humanity beneath the layers of his crafted identity. Taking a breath, he shifted his tone, marshalling a sense of patience. "I didn't choose to be a target." Her grip tightened on the wheel, the road ahead veering sharply around a bend. "I get that," she said, vulnerability breaking through her defenses. "I've been navigating a maze of my own, trying to keep my daughter away from a system that won't listen to my fight." For a brief moment, their eyes locked, and something unspoken passed between them, a shared understanding of the burden they both carried. As they traversed the quieter backroads, a sense of collaboration surged in the small space of the sedan. Samuel began to share snippets of his expertise, how data analytics had rendered him a target and the nuances of public perception. Claire responded with her own insights into resilience, revealing how she infused creativity into her life despite the crushing weight of grief. With every passing mile, they unraveled bits of their lives like threads in a fabric, weaving an unexpected bond amidst the chaos. Suddenly, their conversation was broken by the unmistakable sound of sirens cutting through the serenity of the countryside. The flashing lights of a police cruiser appeared in the distance, intensifying the urgency of their situation. Fear gripped Claire's chest as she instinctively searched for a place to hide. "What do we do?" she asked, voice trembling, eyes wide with panic. Samuel's brow furrowed, his mind racing. "We can't let them see us on the road. There's an old barn on the right, we'll duck in there," he commanded, clarity emerging in the pressure of the moment. The urgency in his tone nudged Claire into action, and she made the turn, adrenaline surging while they careened toward the dilapidated structure. As they pulled into the shadow of the barn, Samuel's earlier bravado gave way to a palpable sense of teamwork. They both understood the stakes now, not just his freedom, but the fragile possibility of connection they had built in mere moments. It was here, in the looming uncertainty, that they found themselves allies, bound not just by circumstance but by the silent acknowledgement of each other's struggles. The flickering lights of the police cruiser faded into the distance, leaving them cloaked in silence, and for the first time, they truly listened to one another. The barn enveloped them in muted shadows, the aged wood creaking like a weary sigh as Claire and Samuel settled into a fraught silence. Claire tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her heart still racing from their near encounter. As the weight of the moment settled, she turned to Samuel, instinctively feeling the need to share her truth, a thread woven from loss and resilience. "You want to know why I'm here, why I agreed to help you," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. "It's more than just circumstance." With the flickering light from the dashboard casting a gentle hue between them, Claire revealed the tapestry of her life, one stitched with loss, love, and sacrifice. 5 years ago, I was a different person. I worked hard at a marketing firm, driven by ambition, dreaming of changing the world. I thought I had it all, my husband by my side, a growing career, my daughter's laughter filling our home. But then, he was gone. Just like that. Her eyes glistened, pain flickering across her features. A car accident. In an instant, everything I knew shattered. She paused, allowing the memories to wash over her like the tide. I became a single mother overnight, navigating mourning while trying to be everything my daughter needed. I traded dreams for reality, filled my life with late-night diaper changes and early morning school drop-offs. The workplace that once ignited my passion became a memory, my job slipped through my fingers like sand, and I found myself in the trenches of parenting, where no one listens to your fight against the system. The sorrow in her voice rippled through the air, and for a moment, Samuel allowed himself to absorb her words. He realized that Claire's world had been one of deep struggle, juxtaposed starkly against his own, where wealth and power had once bestowed him a false sense of security. He had navigated life through the lens of privilege, but her narrative exposed an unvarnished truth that transcended privilege and affluence. "You're fighting a system that refuses to see you," he murmured, a newfound respect for her resilience emerging within him. Claire continued, "I fought my battles daily, taking on lawyers and social workers who saw a struggling mom and nothing more. They don't see the sacrifices that come with raising a child alone. I'd been stripped of my identity, and it wasn't just about the money or the job. It was about losing the person I was, losing the dreams that filled the spaces in our home." With every word, the tendrils of self-reproach slipped through her fingers, illuminating the shadows of abandonment she had carried. "I always thought I could balance it all: work, motherhood, somehow find the time for myself. But when I lost him, I lost that part of me too." Her voice dropped to a whisper, vulnerability cracking its surface. "Now, I constantly juggle this fear that if I don't keep fighting, I'll lose my daughter too. And that thought, it terrifies me." Samuel felt the stirrings of his own vulnerability as if her words carved a trench in his soul, revealing the depths of his own loneliness. Unlike Claire, he had thrived in a world where success equated to validation. But his need for control had come at a harrowing cost: the emptiness in his office, the crumbling relationships, the families that had slipped through his fingers. "I've been so focused on success," he admitted, a heaviness settling in his chest, "that I pushed everyone away, even those who truly mattered." A profound silence enveloped them, the air thick with newfound understanding. Claire's struggles, so fiercely authentic, resonated with a rawness that struck a chord within Samuel. For the first time, he questioned the very foundation of his identity. At what point had success supplanted genuine connection? "It's all turned into this twisted game of control," he confessed, feeling stripped of the bravado he had worn like armor. "I craved recognition, but I forgot about the things that made life worth living." In the shadows of the barn, they could see themselves reflected in one another, two people forced to grapple with their own realities, yet desperately seeking something greater. "I can't go back to the life I had before," Claire said softly. "But with every fight, I find a little more clarity on what matters: protecting my daughter, ensuring she has a future free of the shadows that haunt me." Samuel stared into the depths of his own choices, understanding now how easily ambition had consumed him. "And I need to find a way out of this facade," he acknowledged. "To understand that my worth isn't tied to how much I have or control. It's about the relationships I build, the people I touch." In that fleeting moment of connection, they both recognized a shared truth: the complexity of navigating life's burdens fueled by aspirations ignited a longing for something more. As the silence settled once more, Claire's heart beat with the weight of her revelations, and for the first time, they stood as equals, bound by their stories, remnants of who they were, and what they could still become. The road ahead remained uncertain, limitless in its possibilities, but in each other, they had found a flicker of something profound, a chance to redefine their identities, not as victims of circumstance but as architects of their shared journey. As Claire and Samuel sat in the dim light of the barn, a fragile truce formed between them, only to be shattered by the sudden crescendo of blaring sirens that pierced the stillness. The police cruiser had returned, its lights flashing not far from their hiding spot. Panic surged through Claire like ice water, swiftly chasing away the warmth that had settled in her heart. "They're back," she whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Samuel's instinct kicked in, and he quickly scanned their surroundings for a way out. "We have to move, now." The urgency in his tone ignited a fresh wave of adrenaline within Claire. In that moment, she understood the stakes. This wasn't just about Samuel's freedom, it was about her daughter, her life, and the fragile thread that connected them as they both fought for something greater than themselves. "Head toward the back exit of the barn," he instructed, his voice low but commanding. "We can find a way into the woods from there." Her heart raced as she nodded, bolting from the car and following his lead, her mind racing with thoughts of her daughter, waiting for her at home. Claire felt the familiar grip of instinct sewing its tight threads around her as she moved, refusing to retreat into her old ways of helplessness. She wasn't simply a victim, she was a fighter, and for the first time in years, she felt empowered by that identity. As they slipped into the shadows of the dense trees bordering the barn, Claire focused on the sound of Samuel's footsteps beside her. "You need to know," she said, urgency woven into her words, "if we're caught, it won't just be about you. I won't let them take my daughter." Her eyes met his, fierce and unyielding. She felt a surge of purpose she hadn't known before. It wasn't just about protecting herself or the livelihood she had built for her family, but also carving a path for others like herself, those who had struggled and fought for their place in the world. Samuel caught her gaze, the fear of being hunted replaced by a sense of responsibility for another life, her life. "I never understood what it was like to fight against a system that doesn't care," he admitted, breathless and earnest. "But watching you, hearing your story, it's changed me. I want to help people like you from now on." The vulnerability in his admission cut through the fog of desperation that had clouded their journey. For the first time, he saw the profound truth behind his privilege. It was not enough to simply exist in a world of luxury while others struggled against the tide. He had to stand alongside them. They moved cautiously through the trees, pushing deeper into the woods where the sounds of the sirens faded into a distant hum. Claire felt an unexpected sense of camaraderie blossom between them. With each stride, she navigated her fears, consciously shedding the weight of doubt that had held her back in the past. This was her moment. She had long ago surrendered to uncertainty, but now, she was reclaiming her life in ways she had never imagined. "Keep quiet," he murmured, his instincts renewed as they reached a clearing. In the dim light, Samuel began to strategize. "We need to find a way to contact someone who can help, someone who can clear my name," he said, his brow furrowed in concentration. "But this time, your voice matters, too." Claire felt a swell of strength within her. Finally, her voice could carry weight beyond her own struggles. "I know people," she replied. "I've been fighting for my daughter's future, but I can help you find allies, lawyers who understand the stakes." As they pressed forward, a sense of clarity enveloped them. They no longer walked as solitary figures burdened by their pasts, but as a united front, ready to challenge a world that had tried to keep them down. Samuel, the billionaire straddling the line between privilege and responsibility, could leverage his resources to support those who were vulnerable. Claire, the single mother forged from grief and resilience, could channel her struggles into advocacy for those like herself. Their footsteps echoed through the woods, blending with a newfound purpose, a promise to rise together, to reveal the hidden truths of their identities and create a narrative that encompassed both their lives. "Let's do this," Claire urged, her heart racing with anticipation. She had chosen this path of partnership, ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that each step would not only shape their future but perhaps kindle a change in the very fabric of the world they fought against. As they maneuvered their way through the trees and toward the unknown, they carried with them the weight of their pasts, but also the spark of transformation. What had begun as a harrowing encounter had become a journey of self-discovery. Each revelation illuminated a clearer path ahead, one where they could fight not just for their own lives, but also advocate for the voiceless, weaving their identities into a tapestry of hope and strength. With renewed resolve, they forged onward, ready to navigate the uncertain road that lay ahead, together. As they emerged from the woods, Claire and Samuel found themselves standing at the edge of a weathered road, a stark contrast to the turmoil they had just escaped. The world felt quieter here, as if the treetops had conspired to shield them from the cacophony of sirens and chaos. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting golden rays that filtered through the branches, illuminating the path ahead like a promise. Claire's heart slowed, her breath steadying as they paused for a moment. Her thoughts turned to her daughter, waiting at home with an innocence that felt fragile against the weight of their unfolding reality. She could picture the way her little girl's fingers curled around the worn-out stuffed bear, the comfort it brought her in the face of uncertainty. It was a symbol of hope, tucked away like a secret. Samuel stood beside her, his icy blue eyes reflecting the dappled light filtering in, but there was a softness now, a vulnerability that had begun to soften the edges of his meticulously crafted facade. He turned to her, the earlier tension giving way to an unspoken understanding. "Thank you," he said, his voice almost a whisper. It was more than gratitude, It was recognition of their shared journey, a silent acknowledgement that they were both more than the identities the world had imposed upon them. Claire glanced at him, and in that fleeting moment, they shared a connection that transcended their circumstances. It was a look full of unarticulated fears, dreams yet to be realized, and the hope that they could emerge from the shadows together. She stepped closer, a protective instinct surging within her. "Whatever happens next, we'll figure it out," she reassured him, her voice steady despite the uncertainty that loomed. Samuel nodded, feeling a shift within himself. The fear that had once dictated his every choice began to subside, replaced with a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years: trust. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As they stood on that weathered road, a small breeze rustled the leaves overhead, and in that simplicity, Claire reached into her pocket, pulling out her daughter's bear, a gesture of warmth and connection. She held it out to Samuel, a silent offering. "Take it. It reminds me of what I'm fighting for. Maybe it can help you too." Their hands brushed together for the briefest moment, and in that small act, the weight of their burdens shifted. It was a gesture that spoke of shared resilience, of unyielding resolve to reclaim their lives from the shadows. And as they turned together toward the horizon, the world felt brighter, their steps lighter. In the distance, the sun dipped below the trees, casting a warm glow upon the path that lay ahead, a path filled with uncertainty, perhaps, but now illuminated by the flicker of hope they had ignited within one another. They walked on, strengthened by their encounter, ready for the journey that awaited them, where trust was the first step toward their new reality. A breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it the promise of change,